What's up, guys? Welcome back to Clutch Takes, and today we're going to be talking about how the bench mob could be back. Let's get into it. But before we get into the video, please make sure to drop a like, comment down below what you guys think of this year's potential bench, and subscribe if you guys are new. So let's take a look at what the bench could be this season. From what we believe it could be a combination of Flynn running the point guard position on the bench, Scottie Barnes obviously, Watanabe, Boucher, and Achua or Birch. Some potential third string options are Danton, Gillespie, Bonga, and Decker. So when looking at this group on the bench, we came up with some common characteristics. For starters, they all have crazy competitiveness. They all seem like they're players that have like a chip on their shoulder. They play like two-way style, hard-nosed defense, fitting the Raptors' identity.
They're all relatively new to the team, as if Flynn barely got any play time last year. Barnes was just drafted like this summer. Achua was just traded this summer. Also, Watanabe was literally like...
Just say Yuta.
Also, Yuta barely... That sounds stupid. Yuta!
Just say it.
Okay. Also, Watanabe barely got any playtime as well, just like Flynn last year, and he's proven to have like some very good games last year and when he had the minutes. And they all have like a chip on their shoulder, so like they all want to prove that they could be on an NBA team. Scottie Barnes got drafted. You can prove that he was supposed to be drafted really high like that. Flynn is going to be proven to be like the backup point guard that he always wanted. And there's also like Achua, who is like Masai's been eyeing him for like years apparently. He wants to prove it to Masai and so on. Like we could say so much about the bench.
So for the last 2 points, so they all have relatively the same height besides Malachi Flynn being the point guard. You know, Scottie Barnes, Watanabe, Boucher, Achua, Birch. That's like a really big bench. You know, there's no like 7-footer on that bench, but they're all like in that 6'7" to 6'9" range, and they rebound above their height. They obviously play really hard. It's going to be like a really tenacious bench, and it's going to be really interesting to watch. So let's go into the bench a little bit deeper. So the starting point guard for the bench is probably going to be Malachi Flynn. You know, he started to pop off at the end of last year. He won Rookie of the Month, so obviously he has some potential. Honestly, I kind of relate him to Fred VanVleet, except a few differences. The few differences being I actually think he's a better ball handler than Fred VanVleet, and he's also quicker. I feel, you know, he's good at getting to the basket. I feel like a thing with Malachi Flynn that he needs to work on, I feel like he needs to work on his decision making. Sometimes he holds onto the ball a little bit too long, you know, causing turnovers and whatnot, or not making the right play. I feel like Fred VanVleet is a little bit more decisive than Malachi Flynn. Obviously that comes from experience. So Malachi Flynn stepping into this role, being the primary ball handler, hopefully he will improve his playmaking, lead the second unit to the success they can have. I feel like Flynn should look to Fred VanVleet when VanVleet was the leader of the original bench mob. I feel like VanVleet killed that role, you know, having obviously elite talents like VanVleet and Siakam, players that became like Siakam obviously an all-star, Fred VanVleet almost an all-star last year. Those people were originally on the bench. I feel like if Malachi Flynn has that same trajectory from Fred VanVleet, you know, gain some knowledge, mentorship, I feel like he can have a similar season as when Fred VanVleet led the bench.
The second player we're going to be talking about is Chris Boucher. He's the oldest player in the team. He'll give a lot of veteran leadership on the bench, as he last year had a breakout season everyone's been talking about. He's a very good shot blocker. He has a good length. He's actually pretty fast for his size, and he can do pretty much anything on the floor. He could be like when the bench mob, or back then, was like with Ibaka, and he was like the veteran on that bench, and Boucher could be like that new Ibaka on the bench, where he's like a shot blocker big that like can like help the younger players, like, you know, show them how to break out into the NBA as he did. And I think Boucher would be a perfect fit for like the other four.
Next, I want to talk about Scottie Barnes. Obviously, Scottie Barnes was the 4th overall pick for the Raptors. You know, it shocked a lot of NBA fans and Raptors fans. You know, people thought the consensus pick was Jalen Suggs, but now we're going with Scottie Barnes. Scottie Barnes is a playmaking power forward, point guard. People call him like positionless, and honestly that could be the case with Scotty Barnes. That's always like a good thing to have, Obviously, JJ Buckets has said it in the past that the Raptors lack some playmaking. So I feel like Scotty Barnes' playmaking ability will be good for the Raptors. Scotty Barnes also has like a chip on his shoulder, because people are doubting him that like why was he taken with the 4th overall pick? Why did he go so high up on the board? I mean, like, no one obviously likes to hear that. Even Jalen Green, who went 2nd overall, is like pissed off that he didn't go 1st overall. People still have that chip on their shoulder when they feel like they deserve a higher spot.
A good example of this is, I'm not saying that, Scotty Barnes is going to be this player, but like Doncic was drafted very low, and he was drafted lower to get him. So his like chip on his shoulder was like, look how good he is now, and look at that draft. He was clearly the best player in that draft now. And Scotty Barnes could have that sort of like mentality when he's like drafted 4th overall, and he could be like, I want to be, the best in the draft. Not saying he will be, but that chip on the shoulder can help, get that competitive degree in that bench and like, uplift the other players to play really good.
Yeah, the only thing with Scotty Barnes, one of the main criticisms was that he doesn't have a shot. He's going to rely on going to the basket a lot in his playmaking. He might have a poor field goal percentage, but honestly, his shot form does not look that bad. I feel like he just needs to like have a little bit more confidence in his shot, take more shots. The Raptors have a great development system, so I feel like as long as he's willing to take those shots, I feel like that will come. We've already seen a little bit of a mid-range game, people calling it looks like a Kawhi mid-range or whatever. I don't know if we go that far, but obviously the potential is there. He doesn't need to be like an elite 3-point shooter. Just having a mid-range game and a post game would probably be good enough for the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, he's not going to be like Kawhi. Well, he's not going to be like Kawhi, but like, everyone needs to remember that Kawhi was a defensive like role player when he first started in the league. It only took him like a couple of years into the league till he finally got his shot together. And then people said it was broken, and now looking at him, he's like a superstar. So like, even though people don't come into the league with a shot, it's possible to like, develop a shot and become really good. Yeah, not like Ben Simmons, yeah, but like, you know what I mean? Like, but Kawhi Leonard is like proven that wrong, where you need a shot to come in the league, but you don't.
And lastly, I combine these two players, Achua and Barnes. Obviously, if a trade comes or whatever, but I feel like these two guys are going to be competing for the starting position. And I feel like, honestly, these two players, I feel like they'll rotate. So that's kind of also why I grouped them together, Achua and Birch, for the starting center position. As Evan mentioned earlier in the video, Masai really wanted Achua, which is kind of interesting. It's just like he said, finally, like, I got you. I got my hands on you. So, when Masai really likes a player, watch out. So, like, obviously this guy has potential. And we've already seen it in the Summer League. He had some great rebounding games. It's going to be an interesting competition between him and Birch. And Birch, when he came in last year, obviously he had a career season. He was always like a 5-point per game player with the Magic. He went into a defensive system like the Toronto Raptors, and he was like an 11-8 guy. Achua also really reminds me of a more defensive Montrezl Harrell. He seems like that tenacious player, crashing the offensive glass, getting in the paint and, coming in with putback dunks, using his physical size and brute strength. I see a lot of Montrezl Harrell in him, but the thing I like about Achua, he seems like he has really good defensive potential too. Obviously Montrezl Harrell has been like exposed in the playoffs, and obviously you don't want that. I feel like if Precious Achua is that player comparable with good defense, obviously that is like a best case scenario. Obviously still, even though Montrezl Harrell is not great defensively, he still won like the 6th man of the year. So
Achua probably has like a lot of potential because Masai has an eye on someone, and if he believes in someone, most likely they will come out and play well.
So yeah, it's honestly a really intriguing bench because everyone is so new, and there is a lot of potential to break out and show what this group can do together. I want to see like a bunch of tenacious players just like putting their heart and soul into the team. It's going to be really fun to watch, and I feel like it's going to be really entertaining basketball like when we had the original Bench Mob. So watch out for Bench Mob 2.0. So let us know what you guys think of this bench. Are we being too high on it? What does it need? let us know in the comments down below. But until then, we'll see you guys next time.